All right, I'm just finishing up putting a little bit of clear gel and white here on the top of the canvas where my sky is going to be. As you can see, I've got a basic sketch. Today we're doing a mountain range. It's been a little while since I've done one, but I thought it'd be fun. Let's grab some blue and white, very simple basic sky, a little red in it. Let's start at the top and just work our way down. Very little sky today, with mostly mountains. You know, you can do paintings that have no sky at all, you just have mountains. I've done those before. I think they're interesting, they're kind of fun. Before we go too much further, let's take a look at the paintings that you guys did of my last one. And if you're not doing your version, or if you're doing them and you're not sharing them with me, well, start sharing them with me. If I see them in time, I'll get it in the next video. It's always fun to see what you guys are up to. There's my color right there, just a soft gray. And that soft gray really makes a big difference, because I actually, at first you can see I had a darker gray. It was I'll probably use it up here, but it was too dark for this background mountain, and it just brought it way too close. And when you have something that has so many layers, it's pretty important to get the values right. If you don't get those values right, it just will feel a little off. So then, of course, this will be just one shade darker, and then maybe this one here, 2 shades darker. So let's pick up just a little more color. A little umber. As soon as we get away from that background, I want that little bit of umber to show through. You certainly don't have to use a 3/4 brush. You could use a filbert brush, and that would probably be faster. This is a fairly old one. You can see it's kind of worn out. I don't know about you guys, but I don't throw my brushes out. I really do save them for a long time, because you know when it's worn out for one thing, it'll be perfect for another thing. So especially with pine trees. I'm just going to continue painting these mountains in. You can add in shadows, like for instance on this, and you see I don't have to paint everything in dark. You see here, I'll show you here in a second. I'll paint in just my shadows, and I'll paint in just my highlights. That way I can go back and add little details that I don't have to like repaint everything. You know what I mean? If you pick out where you know you want your shadows, put the shadows there, and then you know where you want your highlights, put the highlights there, and you'll have less mud and it actually be a little easier for you. There you go. That's how I'm going to do it. Let me show you how I was doing that highlight. Just grab you another brush. Here's just a light tan color. I need more white paint. And literally you just come in here and go the opposite direction. So you're pulling this way, then you'll pull this way. And you just paint in anywhere you need a little highlight. If you can leave most of it white, you'll really have an advantage over painting the whole thing in your gray and then trying to come back and highlight. This is a better way, I think, if you're gonna do a brush mountain. If you do a palette knife mountain, ignore everything that I'm saying, because it's not gonna be at all the same. I think I did a palette knife mountain recently. Remember that desert painting? If you didn't watch it, go check it out, because you can actually apply the same techniques if you're doing this painting and just do it with a palette knife. I'm gonna continue working with these just dark shapes. I'm leaving just everywhere here that's gonna be snow blank. Obviously that's the far easier way to do it. Do you have to do it that way? No. You could probably get in there with a shop towel and wipe it really good, and you'd probably be okay. But this is a lot easier. A lot easier. So I'm gonna do it the easy way. I'm gonna add a little black, well, not too much black, a little umber. Kind of mix. When you're doing this type of underpainting, you can really get away with mixing on the canvas itself. It's exactly what I'm doing here, and it works. See that? Just big, broad shapes. We'll highlight these later. This is just a little drop off. These are some little extra rocks down here. Okay, that's good. And if for any reason it just gets to be too wet or sloppy and you have problems at all, what you can do is you can actually lay a shop towel just over this and just put it on there flat, walk away for 10 minutes, come back, and it will dry out your paint quite a bit. You can keep painting. That is something that I may do in this area. If we need it, I may not. If I do it, I'll be sure to let you know. Probably won't. I don't know. It just depends. Let me tell you what though, it's good to know how to do that. Just know that you can do that. Now I've got this green here, just a quick light green, and it's really not too early to be scrubbing in. Of course, I say that with a question mark because there's that off chance we'll accidentally get some of our snow. I'll try to keep the two colors apart. We don't want that. You know what I mean? You gotta be careful. Yeah. but let's just work at getting a little, because I know this is going to be grass here, and this is my old brush. Don't do this, please don't do this with a new 3/4 brush. That's what the fan brush is for. Don't do it with this. This is just in my hand, and it's convenient. There, again, this is my old 3/4 brush. That isn't much good for doing normal 3/4 brush tasks, so I can do this with it. There, lighter yellow. What am I doing here? Just building up a little meadow. Very little bit of grass, very loose and almost impressionistic. Just see them going all over the place with it. Now, if you're going to do this highlight and shadow at the same time thing, you got to make sure that you get your shadow in there. It's easy to forget it and just do all highlight. Don't you know that's not going to work? Now I've got a soft blue-gray color here, and really just in all our blank areas, I'm going to fill in with this shadow snow. And you can kind of estimate where that shadow might be stopping, somewhere in here. I'm going to do my best to just maybe paint in the large sections of snow first. I'm going to have some trees over here. Okay, if you get too much of this shadow snow and you're like, I really want some highlight snow now, because I do want some, you can actually wipe away. And I may do some of that. This painting is like a big puzzle. I'm just filling in the pieces. And that's only possible because I sketched it out first. If I would have said, I'm just going to make this up and I'm not going to sketch it out, then I would never have been able to paint this way at all, because I wouldn't know where to put the colors. So you see how critical that sketch is when you go to do something like this. It's super important. Now I'm just laying in this. If you're going to paint it this way, if you do a different style, that would be okay. More of a traditional, typical style. But if you're going to paint it in kind of all in this fashion where I'm like just trying to only paint what I need to paint, which is good for getting all these details without creating mud. That's one of the benefits to this. I'm telling you, you got to plan ahead. So now I'm working back up on this side of the painting here with the same idea as over there, really. Just some light snow. To me, this is more, obviously this is in the sunlight, so I think even my shadow sides are not going to be quite as dark. And you can see I've got that going on in my color. It's not quite as dark, it's maybe 1 or 2 shades lighter than even over here. But you know what? Now that I'm over here, it wouldn't hurt to even sprinkle highlights even in the shadows. We can do that. Anything to make this look more detailed, more going on in it, is, I think, a good thing. Yeah, you can see I just spent a few minutes putting white up on the canvas, and some of this still needs some more white. But because that's I don't know if you can tell on the camera or not, but that is dry canvas right there. There we go. Just continue to work in these little bits and places of snow until you get something that you're pleased with. You can paint with the brush upside down like that. It actually creates a softer brush. This will cut through the paint. This will layer the paint. Now I've got this light tan color, and I'm just reinforcing my highlights. You could do this as yellow or as tan as you like. I might put just a little more yellow ochre in it. Not much. This is not a sunset. I don't want it to look like all of a sudden we've got a sunset over here and a blue sky over here. I don't want that. I want to keep it consistent, in my lighting. So I'm not going to do too much yellow ochre, which of course is like the ultimate sunset, beautiful color. It's hard not to, though. It's such a pretty color in there. Oh, wow. And hopefully you're noticing that all you have to do is just, steps 1 through 3, and you'll have a perfect mountain just that quick. 15 minutes, no worries. Now, to get a mountain like this, it is a lot of steps, and that's not hard steps, but a lot of steps. And it's just a matter of keeping control kind of over your values, your dark and light areas. If you let that get out of control, then your mountain is going to begin to lose shape. And don't get any weird repetitive highlights or anything like that, or any little highlights where you shouldn't have them. Keep the highlights where they need to be. And it's going to work out just fine. If you need more instruction, I've got several full-length lessons available on the website, either a DVD or you can download them, which is actually a lot faster and easier. And that way, it takes you from, you can buy the one for like super basic mountains or more advanced mountains. It's mountains techniques. I'll put a link in the description to the website. You can go there and check it out. There we go. Just got done underpainting our basic water area. That's quick and easy. Now here's the fun part. I'm gonna take that really old fan brush. You could do this with a new fan brush, but I kind of like my old one. And let's see, where do you want to start? Our light, of course, is coming in through this direction. There must be a little gap in the mountains because right in here's got a lot of sunlight. So, I really ought to put some highlight on the top of that rock. I'll probably do that after this, but let's just use the corner. This brush is a little too big for this, but I like the texture that it gives. So right here, let's go this direction. No, let's go this direction. I can't make up my mind. Let's start right here and let's pull down. Just like that. Excellent. Yeah, just pull that straight down. I'm not going to over blend with the fan brush. It's too rough to blend with. You're not going to, even if it's a brand new one, you're not going to enjoy blending with it. Don't bother blending. I know fan brushes were originally designed for blending. I know. Not this one. It's too rough. It's designed for creating gorgeous textures in your paint. That's what the fan brush is for. Beautiful textures. Really a lot of highlight. This is going to be probably the brightest section. And where this kind of slips into shadow, this is going to be highlight nearly all the way to the bottom. And then get us some crunchy, splashy foam. Okay, that'll work. And the same as way. It's a little hard to work around the rocks. You could do this before the rocks and paint the rocks around it. Would actually probably be better. Oh well, you know me, I don't like to do it the easy way. Not when it comes to, I like to paint around stuff and make it hard on me. Oh well. Not too bright down here. That'll be too distracting. That's probably enough of that. Now I'm going to bring in just a couple of trees here to fill in this spot. Actually, just left it dry. It's easier to do that than it is to, of course, this is just dark anyways, but typically if that was a highlighted area, it would be easier just to leave this blank and then come in and paint these little trees. I'm just doing basic a tree line, not really full-on trees. We'll obviously save those for the foreground. We don't need them to be too perfect or anything like that. Just go right around the rock. And then a quick highlight. I'm not going to do anything too crazy. Just a simple little highlight, just with a filbert brush. I don't think we need to go too far with it. I'm just dropping in the last little section here of this tree. It helps to glop it on a little bit. I don't want to go so much paint though that I can't highlight, but I'm going right over that white. Okay, there we go. Then to highlight, just grab, and again, you might have to glop it on a little. I don't really care so much. I don't have large elements, I have larger trees, but it looks like it's a layer. This painting is not as layered as it looks, kind of because of the way I painted it. So I'm still okay. I'm not really going over this with much. If I wanted to brighten this up at the end, I probably will with the liner brush. See how that works, just little bits. I use the brush flat because it's softer and I can layer that way without mixing a lot of mud. And my colors there's very little white in this. Just very true, pure colors. I like that for this little tree today. I'm going to brush in another tree here, just another evergreen. This one, of course, being larger and the darkest tree yet. This is basically just black, little sap green, very dark. And no paint down here, which makes it super easy to get that darkness. I'm just going to really fill a lot of this just in with dark, and I'll raise a couple trees out of here. I can detail some of that out with the liner brush, whatever shows, but I haven't really decided yet where my trees are going. I mean, obviously we got to have one there. And I was thinking about, you don't have to have one here, but I was thinking about having one here. It'd be a good transition between these two areas. I do like those trees. I hate to ruin them, but I could go, with a shorter tree. I'm not totally sure yet. This is one of those things you just have to kind of play around and see what you like. Wouldn't hurt to go a little higher with that one. Now these evergreens were done pretty quickly with the filbert brush. And so coming back just on the edges with the detail brush, It doesn't take a lot of time, doesn't take any effort really, but it just spices them up a little, especially on this little lone tree out here. I think it's necessary. Bring in a lot of these nice, just textures, details, brush strokes. Make the edges a little crispier, and it certainly makes that tree come forward. And it's good contrast against that snowfield there, isn't it? Yeah, that really works. I'm looking mostly at my negative space, my little in and out areas. Just to make sure it looks fairly natural. And then down here where you have less contrast, you can certainly spend less effort because you won't notice it nearly as much. Now I've got just a lot of different colors, a lot of the yellows, just not over mixed. They kind of just separate there on my brush. That way, depending on what part of the brush is I'm painting with, I get a slightly different color. And that helps to add to the overall effect of this tree. Being that it's a closer tree, we need to have it more detailed, more things going on in it. That's just step one. I'm sure I'll come back and bring in a little more detail on the edge, but just like we did before, I'm going to complete most of it with the filbert brush. Very little of it with the detail brush, because that's just so much easier and more efficient, honestly just better. You got two different kinds of brush strokes happening instead of just one, and to me that makes all the difference right there. If you didn't do it for any other reason, that's enough reason right there. You can see that layers it on pretty simply, pretty straightforward, And that's probably good enough. I don't need to go overboard. And I've got this little tiny tree here, which is just sticking out. And we'll get a little highlight on that one also. This is almost like a palette knife painting in some ways, the way I'm scooping it up and layering it down like that. Not unlike a palette knife. Actually, under this amount of texture, actually kind of feels like a palette knife. Now, last thing I'm going to do here today is use a liner brush to add in some bonus details. Maybe even bring some of this waterfall over. That'll work. Yeah, that'll work. You see, what's nice about this, by the way, there's my color. What's nice about this is just white, but the point is it's not very thin. The point of doing it with the liner brush is so that I won't just mix a bunch of mud. Because don't you know, you can do a liner brush over anything. Anything but the liner brush. You know what I mean about that. But over any of this paint that's all galoppy, no worries. No worries. It's the easiest thing in the world to paint this thin paint over the thick paint. It won't hurt anything. I won't get any mud. So there you go. And this brush is so long. I mean, by the time you get out to the point of that brush, you are talking a very, very soft brush. That is not stiff in the least. It's a soft brush to begin with, and then the length just makes it so soft. Sometimes you get a liner brush that's kind of short, and because it's short, it's kind of stiff, and you'll actually find it's hard to do anything with it. I suggest getting a nice long liner brush. And if you need a liner brush, I've got them on the website. If you haven't tried out this long liner brush, give it a try. I think you'll enjoy it. So I can just bring out a detail here. Don't need a lot, just enough. You can hit that with a blender brush, do some here and then stop and blend it if you want to, if you feel like it's too harsh. But get it all in first and see what you think. We can also do a little bit of that up in here. But I'm just gonna go around the whole painting. Maybe I'll put a little on the rocks and whatever. You could even go up into the snow if you needed to. I don't need to, but if you did, you could. Well, there you go. Well, that about wraps it up for this painting today. Hopefully you enjoyed seeing it. There was a lot of detail in this one. Don't forget to check out our website, DVDs, and brush line. Thanks for watching. Well, hopefully you enjoyed this video. Remember to subscribe if you're not already, and click the like button. That helps me out a lot. Stick around, watch a couple more videos, and stay inspired.